I'm Brinton Gundersen, and we're at the Gunder Labs at Dragan Boards headquarters. This is where all the magic happens. This is where we develop new products. This is where we break stuff to find out if it's gonna work or not. So much fun happens, so much creativity happens in here, and I wanna share that a little bit with you, show you the process that we take from an initial concept all the way to a product. So today we're gonna be talking about the V2 Toe Hook. So this is the toe hook that comes on the cruiser board standard. Let's get into it. When we first started to develop the cruiser board as a whole, there was a couple of concepts that we knew that we needed to take on head on. We needed the easiest product for a new user to jump on the board, understand innately what they needed to do, where their feet needed to be placed, and just start the journey. The first thing that we did was evaluate other products. Grant McCombs, he's very good at freeboarding. Freeboarding has a product that's a toe hook, and we tried it on our boards and in our use, and it never really felt right. It didn't do what we needed it to do. The rider wouldn't put their feet quite in the right spot, and it was pretty uncomfortable, to be honest, and really heavy. But it was good to see what somebody else had gone through and how they had built it. We took lessons learned from what Freeboard had out on the market, and yeah, great product for what they do. The next one was Alterskate. Alterskate's been around for a long time, and what they had right was having a toe hook incorporated into their board. There's a few things that could be improved upon, in my opinion. But this was a huge step in the right direction, is just having that ability to have that board stuck to your feet a little bit better. And this sky hook from Alterskate did just that. Same thing, there was still some concepts that were missing, some components that were missing, but a good start. We did evaluate some other products out on the market. This one in particular is built for skateboards. It's actually really nice from a grippy perspective. Just didn't offer everything that we wanted or were figuring we needed out of our toe hook. So great examples of what was on the market at the time. This is one of the very first toe hooks that we printed as a prototype. We knew we needed to adhere to the standard holes of bindings so that they could put onto basically any board out there. This model is actually 3D printed, so we run a 3D print farm here at Gunder Labs. We have 4 printers, and so we can rapid prototype. The process that we go through when we start prototyping, we select an alpha team that's going to initially come up with concepts and test the product. We also have our designer, Steph Tribe, back in the UK. And it's typically 3 people on that alpha team that come up with the initial concept and design. So this was the very first toe hook that we gave a try. I actually have another version of this where I literally hacked components off and changed things and started to make our direction into the toe hook. This toe hook was on my son's board, the very first cruiser prototype that I had built. But this was the start. We had built probably 8 different iterations of the toe hook before we got to what is now known as the V1 toe hook. So the V1 toe hook had a few elements that were really key in helping that process for someone early to learn. First is the heel bump. The heel bump was important because it provided a place for your foot to rest and push right into. When you had a new rider, if they understood which direction to stand on the board, it was obvious, like push my foot straight into that, and the teacher didn't have to explain, hey, this is where your foot goes. And I think that's a challenge on some of the other, with some of the other products that are on the market, they're really hard to teach on. And that's where I think our product has an advantage. It's a little easier to teach somebody else how to ride the product on our boards. On the V1 toe hook, some of the key elements that were important to this were the deep pocket on the wing. so it really hooks over your toe quite a bit. The long slots, so the slots can move back and forth to fit many different size of shoes, as well as the angle that it holds your feet. So automatically you're going to have a natural, just a little bit of duck foot to have it comfortable to stand on. So the V1 toe hooks are a little bit chunky. They're bigger than they need to be because they're 3D printed. The 3D print material that we use is a nylon carbon fiber infused filament, and it's quite the process to print. You have to keep everything very low humidity, and so all the rolls of filament are held in low humidity environments. It's printed into a low humidity environment, and then the material's printed on a surface that's very, very tacky. It's actually quite difficult, and I mean, there's a lot of people out in the world that do this every day, but there was a lot of learning involved in 3D printing. And what we got out of it was, first of all, the know-how. How do we get a product that we can functionally test? How do we prototype ourselves instead of having somebody do it? That gives us the ability to rapidly create products. That's what came out of it, is the V1 toe hook. Very cool. People, we still sell some of these today. People love them. They're a little more aggressive than our V2 toe hook, and we'll talk more about that. After we had built that V1 product, it was time to move on to the next iteration. And we knew there was a few things that we needed to improve on. Did we build a toe hook that was going to be way more aggressive, more for tricks, more for the pro riders, you know, the top end riders? Or were we going to build a product to build the foundational riders of the sport, the people that needed to come in and help support all of us and really spread the word about streetboarding? And that's the idea about the V2 toe hook. So we took a little bit different strategy on the design. This was one of the designs that didn't make it. It had a little bit too aggressive of a hook, and we had some folks that didn't feel comfortable getting out of them. But what I wanted to show you on this particular design is we started to eliminate tools, and that's been a factor of Dragan all along. We want to simplify the process to build, implement, maintain your board, but this one has a slot for the bolts or the nuts to slide into, so you only have to use a screw on the bottom and you can screw it in. So that was interesting about this iteration. I know you're going to ask about the blue. No, you can't have the blue. We just did it to try it. This actually is Grant's most favorite toe hook, barring the prototypes of the next generation toe hooks that we've been working on for about a year. But this was Grant's favorite toe hook for a long, long time. So fast forward, we went through a bunch of iterations. We decided on hole pattern, the kick out, how much curve, and then Steph did a beautiful job of modeling this product to be ultra lightweight. One of the issues and feedback that we had was the heel bump. Folks didn't love that the heel bump was separate, because when you jumped, you would stand on the heel bump. So that's one thing we made uniform into the rest of the toe hook. Additionally, we added material on the inside to grip your shoe a little bit better. There's a small lip to help protect this rubber that's on the inside. So that's some protection that you can place in there. This one in particular was a 3D printed version of what we would produce. First of all, we'll build a model that's functional, that we can ride. It looks chunky and heavy, but then this is not the product that will go to injection. Something much more slim, slender. The material could be thinner in areas because injected plastic is quite a bit stronger than 3D printed. So this was our proof before we sent it to our factory. After we did get our first samples, it's not just about what the end product looks like. So this is one of our approved samples that we had received. It has a beautiful logo on the front. It's all matte, and so it just really pops. You can see that logo nice and crisp, as well as there's an embossed dragon down here. Additionally, you have those slots with the metal in the bottom just to create a little more strength that's required. So as you tighten the toe hooks down to a board, they're not going to pop off, rip off, tear off. They're well secured. Yeah, just looks fantastic. But one of the processes is not only the shape, but the plastic that's required. So we did go through a process of testing different plastics. I was surprised because the plastic that we had expected from the get-go and did some of the engineering based on is not the one that was the most durable. So we went through a process where we would drop these, we would actually hold a board upside down, and then we would drop it on the ground this way to find out if these toe hooks would survive. It was actually one of the lesser expensive plastics that had a little more conformity to it, a little more flexibility. That was the one that won out, not the most rigid, strong plastic that we thought we would end up with. It's interesting, you know, as you're going along, you're learning every step of the way and just getting better at the process and understanding, you know, what the outcome is going to be. We had testing upon testing upon testing. This is what it came out to be. The V2 toe hook. After we had the toe hook, we had a few folks that weren't happy about how much they actually held your feet in or down. So these V2 toe hooks are what comes standard on all the boards today. They're mounted in the center of the toe hook, and that's kind of the best place for any rider. If you want them a little less aggressive or holding your feet down, you can move the toe hook forward. So it's on this wing part is only over your toe. If you want it to hold your foot down a little more to the board, you can slide it back where the wing is over the center of your foot. These toe hooks do fit pretty well on the pro boards and the classic boards. They're not specifically designed for the classic or the pro. We have a lot of riders that do ride the V2 toe hooks as well as the V1 toe hooks on the classic and the pro boards. So it's quite the process, very fun, and it's time consuming. It's very time consuming. Some of these products, you know, take a year. Some of them, you know, with our 3D printing process, we can move really quickly. But if we're going to invest in a product for a long-term perspective, we're going to take our time and make sure it's done right. We love building new products. I love getting my hands dirty, getting in there, and we're going to keep bringing it. All right, thanks for joining us in the Gunder Labs, and we'll see you next time. I'm Brinton Gundersen. See you later.